Zeri is the new friendly neighborhood Zaun zapper and Riot's latest ADC to hit the Rift. Her lore has her standing up for the little guy and beating down the barons of Zaun, but how is she going to fit into the professional scene? This time, we imagine the competitive future for Zeri, the Spark of Zaun.
No one steals my thunder!
First, a quick overview of her abilities. Her passive gives her bonus movement speed when she's shielded and it steals shields. Her Q gives her auto's AP scaling and then gives a 7-bullet barrage, and it also switches her auto attack and ability around. It's a bit weird. W is a long range poke that slows, gaining extra range when hitting terrain, and E is a dash which will ride along terrain and then gives piercing Qs. Finally, her ult is burst damage, then some ADC steroids and a shiv. On paper it's a pretty stunning kit, but we'll only be discussing the actual abilities as the numbers will go up and down with balance cycles. But before we get into that, let's look at the current landscape for ADCs. For the longest time, mobility was essential for ADCs to succeed. Ezreal, Lucian and Tristana were consistently high picks because of this. However, Season 11 and the beginning of 12 is showing that this is no longer essential, with Jinx and Lethal Temple ruling the bot lane. Gale Force gives a small dash if mobility is needed, but the high DPS is really appreciated. As such, Aphelios and Jhin are also highly valued picks. So Zeri having a dash and an E might not be the most valuable trait. Additionally, tanky supports are far more meta than enchanters right now. Thresh, Leona and Nautilus currently show up more than most. Even Shroud is such a strong support item alongside Glacial Augment, and it's hard to justify not picking it up. With all that said, shields are pretty common in League, top laners like Set rely on them, and tanky or enchanting supports can cover their carry, so the ability to increase movement speed based on that is going to be one to watch in teamfights. In addition, the ability to drain them will be a completely unique mechanic that will be effective against the shield bows and bloodthirsters that Zeri faces in bot lane. So let's look at Zeri's abilities. Whilst W and O aren't particularly interesting and will depend on the numbers and the balance, the Q and E are what sparks attention for the pro scene. Damage and build predictability are rarely a good thing, and Zeri brings great flexibility. The Q passive bringing AP scaling and magic damage to auto attacks will allow players to change their builds on the fly. Nash's Tooth is looking to be a strong item on the Spark, and there's currently a Kaisar build that uses Crown of the Shattered Queen, Manamune and Nash's to give mixed damage output. If Zeri can also bring this mix on her auto attacks and Q, it's going to be insanely hard to predict and play around. I think this one ability, balance depending, could see tank support struggling more in the early game as they're unable to build consistent resistances against Zeri. Galio has been in about a fifth of the games in Season 12 thus far, but even the Parasite Flesh can't predict where Zeri will go. The Lightning Lady could still build a Kraken and AD heavy items. This flexibility has been valued in the past on ADCs and will likely continue to bring Zeri into the spotlight. Additionally, the active on her Q is going to be very skill expressive and will allow for pro players to really demonstrate their ability, especially alongside the E piercing. Speaking of Zeri's E, it's going to be the most impactful ability she has, especially in pro play. A lot of this depends on the numbers Zeri has once she's let loose in the pro scene, but similar to Talia and Talon, a mid or jungle pick could lead to devastating ganks with coordinated team play. Zeri would be hard to see coming, and with how pro players work so well as a team and communicate, this could be another tool in their surprising arsenal. So what arsenal will Zeri be bringing? A typical ADC build would fit quite nicely on her. Shield Bow plays nicely with her passive and her attack speed benefits her abilities and cooldowns. Always able to opt into the tank busting with Kraken, I can also see Manamune being built on Zeri too. On top of that, Collector looks like it's going to help her dash in and burst playstyle. But also there's potential for AP builds. Like I said, Crown of the Shattered Queen alongside Nash's Tooth could really bring damage, and Riftwalker could give that little bit of survivability and sustain. All these could be combined to make a hybrid build, looking at Crown of the Shattered Queen, Manamune, Nash's Tooth, and maybe a Wit's End or Frozen Half for defense, and that could be very strong on Zeri. All of this culminates into Champion's select power. Picking Zeri in the first rotation could really hide a bot or mid pick, but even if Zeri is 100% ADC, her AP scaling could empower an AD mid laner, making it hard for a team to deal with threats that are coming in. Will Zeri be building AP, AD, attack speed on hit? It can literally change every game on the fly. So, using Future Sight, how much of an impact will Zeri have on the competitive scene? I think it's going to be a big one. Zeri brings mixed damage, huge build variety and macro mobility. It suggests we have a very strong champion on our hands. But what do you think? We've seen some early gameplay and Zeri seems predictably overtuned. Do you think she'll be nerfed to the ground before she makes a competitive appearance? Or do you disagree and don't think she'll have such of an impact? Let me know in the comments below. With all that said, I'll see you next time.